Hello all of you little demons, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, back again with another episode of the awesomely named and awfully hosted Choose Your Own Adventure, the weekly medieval theme format where I, the crown Jules of WhatCulture.com, take a list chosen by you. Yes, you, the person who desperately needs another coffee. Why didn't I make one before I started recording? Yes, you get to decide what list I dole out to you each and every week. And this week we have none other to thank than Canton Kage for their suggestion of video game sequels that definitely improved on the franchise, so much so that many saw them as a second chance. Now, to err is to be human, and I have definitely sure heard the phrase, sir, please put your trousers back on and stop rubbing deli meats all over your chest enough times to know that I need to stop drinking that imported cough syrup. In these moments, when you've been caught out by life or a gamble that didn't pay off, it is important to take stock of the situation, as it's here, in these moments, that we learn the type of person we are, and more importantly, who we should strive to become. And that's as valid for the individual as it is for video game developers all around the world, as with oily microtransaction practices and other shady workplace scenarios, often they've got a lot to apologize for. Thankfully, the video games that we're about to cover today all chose to right those wrongs. They put in the hard work to rebuild those bridges and regain some trust, and of course, earn that second chance. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 8 greatest video game second chances. And you know the drill by now. Say hi to me here over in the live chat and put your suggestions for next week's episode down in the comments section below. With that in mind, let's get on with the list, shall we? Number 8, Sonic Mania. The Sonic franchise. Truly, it epitomizes the phrase, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me as many times as the bloody Sonic series has. Shame. Just shame. Seriously, I can't think of another video game series with this many misses that has been this passionately defended by a fan base. Maybe outside of the Dynasty Warriors fan base, but more on that later. From the utter disaster piece that was Sonic 06 to the Sonic title whose name mirrors the noise you make whilst playing it, Sonic. The blue blur has indeed unsharpened the lines of what constitutes decent output time and time again. Yet it's also a series that's had the most phoenix rising from the ashes moment, and no game better exemplifies this than Sonic Bloody Mania. Oh boy. If nothing else, I'll lavish praise on this game just for the fact that Sonic Team didn't make it, and I enjoy the idea that they get annoyed each and every time that this is mentioned. But aside from pettiness, this game truly is what Sonic should always have been about. Well-designed levels, outstanding art direction, and blistering speed. This game was a veritable love letter to the source material and made by a true and blue fan of the series, and the fact that Sega actually picked up this game to be released officially is mind-blowing. As is the decision not to make a sequel. Seriously, what are you doing? That's money left on the table, you idiots. Although maybe they're probably just saving it for their next Sonic Redemption arc. Number 7, No Man's Sky and Star Wars Battlefront 2. Let's face it, you knew that both of these games were going to feature on this list just by looking at the title, and there's honestly nothing new that I could say about either game that you haven't heard a million times before, especially from WhatCulture. We love talking about these things. But what I'm going to do is a bit of a writing challenge for you now, is talk about both games at the same time. Because seriously, they've got very similar villain origin and redemption arc stories going on here. So let's go! Out of the gate, both titles promise to be so much more than they could ever hope to deliver on, with pre-release hype building around features found to either be hugely inferior in the final product or straight up missing entirely. Then, on launch, both titles sold extremely well before the public quickly got wise to the fact that there was something altogether shady about the experience, and a PR nightmare ensued, leading to the devs responding in a manner that only invoked more frustration and ire. Yet, instead of slinking back into the shadows, laughing like Tom from that one scene in Tom and Jerry that still haunts my dreams, no, Tom, no, stop, no! Both dev teams decided to double down and actually fix their f***ing games. Over a long period and a sustained release of exciting and free content, both titles were patched back into shape. Better still, the support continued, actually elevating the titles beyond the scope of even their original promises, to the extent that at this current time, each stands aloft as a genuinely great gaming experience. It's been a rough road for sure, but the outcome is the same, that No Man's Sky, or Star Wars Battlefront 2, is a great game. Delete where appropriate. Number 6, Legacy of Goku 2. So I'll ask you, Dan, when is an RPG not an RPG? That's right, Dan, when it's Legacy of Goku, a Game Boy Advance title that dropped in 2002 with such anemic RPG qualities that many fans wondered why it had been added to the genre at all. If you wanted as close to a one-to-one delivery of the manga franchise's most famous moments without any of the suspense, excitement, or challenge, this is the very strange game for your very strange request, as Log really was a bit of a floater in the punch bowl. Hilariously, most reviews of the game stop their praise at the graphics because there really isn't much more to comment on after this point, yet I don't think the fan base found this quite so funny. Yet fret not, friends, as a sensu beam was chucked towards the series in the form of Legacy of Goku 2, which improved on every single criticism and then some, delivering a brand new art style, a more action-oriented focus, and a monstrous amount of content that gave fans plenty to fight through. Ideally, this is what Log 1 should have been, and it's a shame that the series had to skirt utter obliteration to realise that it needed to deliver fans legitimately good content. Yet you know what? I will take the chance to punch Cell in one of his many smug faces any day of the week. So thank you very much, Webfoot, for making this game. Number 5, Dead Island 2. Okay, so hands up, I'm going to be honest here, I really bounced off of the original Dead Island. Outside of the admittedly entertaining opening area, the game became an utter slog of both terrible resource management and confusing tones, whiplashing between B-movie schlock and trying and failing to be a tear-jerking examination of the human condition. It was like, oh no, my family's dead. Better go kick this beach ball in a zombie's face. What is this game about? The graphics were rough enough to cut beef on, and the bloomer flecks were blinding in places, making the game an experience that you might want to love, but was impossible to overlook the faults. The series was kicked further in the throat with Riptide releasing with all of the same issues, and then seemingly capped in the head by Escape Dead Island, which I can confirm was indeed a video game, and I will end my praise there. Add in the huge gestation period of Dead Island 2, and things seemed done and thoroughly dusted for the series. Or so I thought. That was my dramatic voice there. Did you like it? Good. Okay, cool. I'll do it on Cameo. I should really get on Cameo. Tell you what, this will be my announcement. Go over to Twitter then. Tell me what you want me to say. I'll do a little compilation of things people want me to say, and we'll put it in the next video. Or we won't, and I'll forget. Either way, message me on Twitter. It's at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. You see, after recently playing Dead Island 2, I gotta say that this game is basically the one I always wanted. Vibrant, beautiful looking, and genuinely funny in places. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still some wonky controls and iffy combat to deal with, but overall this feels like a much better game, and a title that has taken its time to produce something decent over just flopping onto the marketplace to be thoroughly gutted by critics. People aren't expecting this game to be good, and I think it's going to be a sleeper hit. Now, admittedly, there is a lot of time for the game to prove me wrong, but I sure as hell hope it doesn't. Number 4, Dynasty Warriors 7. Now, the Dynasty Warriors franchise must be deeply confusing to anyone who is not already involved in this very sordid love affair. Wait a minute, so you're telling me it's basically the same game over and over with the same gameplay style, and all that changes is that there's like 4 new characters each and every time that a new one comes out. And the game still looks like ass. You are damn right, my friend, and I will be pre-ordering Dynasty Warriors 10 the first moment I can. Now trust me, friends, I have been burned so many times by this series. So many times. Especially recently with Dynasty Warriors 9 and 9 Empires making me feel like I'm on life support and my oxygen has been replaced with a canister of farts. But never has my faith been shaken more than with the release of Dynasty Warriors 6 and that goddamn Renbu system. Now to better explain what the Renbu system is, you kind of got to think of Dynasty Warriors as the ultimate power fantasy. I mean, after all, you are playing as a warrior of legends. You're just smoting the face off of anyone who looks at you with a questioning gaze. But here's the problem. You take all of that, and you just remove it in Dynasty Warriors 6 with the Renbu system that locks all of your moves behind a chain combo system. If you want to do anything more than a left or right swipe, you are going to need to chain and juggle opponents to unlock your combos. And yes, if that sounds utterly stupid, it's because it was. It's because it was. It's because it was. So thoroughly burned were the fan base that all Dynasty Warriors 7 really needed to do was remove that to get a net win, which it definitely did, but it also added in more special moves, greater aerial juggling, and a retooled upgrade system, making it not just a far superior game to Dynasty Warriors 6, but a highlight of the series overall. Number 3, Alien Isolation. Okay, so despite what Ash Millman will tell me every single chance that she can, Aliens Colonial Marines is not a good game. It is a very, very bad game. From the totally real I swear guys vertical sliced pre-release content that was an utter falsification of the endgame experience to the utter horror show that was its development cycle, all the way down to the code that was just one change away from delivering a much better enemy AI experience, Colonial Marines was the game over man moment for many fans of the franchise. And it was going to take a lot of work for the series to recover. Oh, wait, there's someone at the door. Oh, hello, Mr. Xenomorph, and hello, Alien Isolation. I'm gonna die now. I cannot express how much this franchise needed this game, as finally, after years of languishing in the action horror genre, the needle was shifted back to pure survival horror tension, with an incredible art direction that emulated the original films and a double-brained xenomorph that would learn your location and hunt you down with terrifying precision. Isolation became the benchmark for others to be measured by. This was the sorbet experience after a buffet of lukewarm gruel, and I tell you what, it made Aliens relevant again. Admittedly, the series has been kind of slowly going back downhill again, but still, right here at that point in time, that was beautiful. You know what, I'm going to bring it back. I'm bringing back the 2 thumbs up. Boom! Number 2, Ace Combat 7. Now, as a man with a perpetual fear of flying, the Ace Combat games have never really appealed to me. Something about screaming around the air at ludicrous speeds and shooting each other down and watching people plummet to the floor in a fiery cage of explosions. Yeah, no. I'll stay on terra firma, mate. That being said, I can most definitely appreciate the appeal of these games, as the Ace Combat titles have carved out a niche within the industry for those that love smashing the sound barrier with a huge assortment of fighter jets and who love to flex their tactical mental muscles as they take on challenging AI enemies. It's a series known for its granular approach to jet customization and of biding your time just waiting for that one moment to strike. And this is why Ace Combat Assault Horizon stood out as a sore thumb for many and a giant flaming middle finger for the fans, because this game was none of the things that I've just mentioned. Assault Horizon is a game that Michael Bay likely has a picture of in his wallet that he looks at and sighs lovingly over before then exploding, as this was an over-the-top octane thrill ride that ditched the brains in favour of the bombs. Hell, they even turned what was once the balletic engagement between aircraft into a pseudo on-the-rail shooter segment thanks to its simplified dogfight mechanic. This was a game designed with the many in mind, but isolated the hardcore few that had sustained the series for so long. Thankfully, Ace Combat 7 arrived on the scene some years later and added in layers of nuance to the combat whilst keeping the things that actually worked from Assault Horizon, which when I just consult my notes here was the graphics and the awesome soundtrack. Hey, well, at least something carried over, right? And number 1, Devil May Cry 3. Now, while there has never been a truly awful Devil May Cry game, come on, even DMC had stellar combat, you can't argue with that, don't even argue, don't put it down, no, Devil May Cry 2 is still a rather sore subject amongst the fanbase, and it's not really hard to see why. Coming off of the back of the literal game changer that was Devil May Cry, Capcom strode out onto its balcony and looked over the piles of money and adoration being lavished upon them, turned again to see the praise Hideki Kamiya and his team had garnered, nodded to themselves, and then said, "Thanks, now f*** off." In other words, commissioning a sequel but not the team that made the original was a rather boneheaded move to say the least, and it was unfortunately just the start of things to come, as the sequel took all the charm, personality and fun of the central cast and ground them face first into pre-James Gunn DCEU grit. Now, defenders of the game would say that the tone was darker and grittier, but to the rest of us we'd say, God damn, it was boring. It was as boring as listening to a presentation on wet cement hosted by a literal bag of cement. Thankfully, this impenetrable foundation was cracked open by the joyous return to form that was Devil May Cry 3, which did away with all the dour and doubled down on the demon slaying, and reinstated a tongue-in-cheek swagger so potent that you could feel it licking your ears. This was Capcom all but apologising for wasting your time with DMC 2's lukewarm action and high school drama club acting, as here it was all about the fun with no frills attached. And there we have it, my friends. Those were the 8 greatest video game second chances. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below, as well as your suggestions for next week's episode. If you want to catch up with me on the social medias in the between times, you can do so by going over to Twitter or Instagram, where it's at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, and you can follow Dan over here. What a lovely fella. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Today we detailed a lot about making mistakes and apologizing from them to get that second chance. And you know what, my friends? We're all human. We've made mistakes. Trust me, on that one I've made a ton in my life. But here's some bit of advice for you. If you have hurt someone, apologize. Mean it. And apologize. If you have damaged something, try to work to repair it. And if unfortunately you have pushed things way too far that it can actually be repaired, learn from it. That's the most important thing. If you make mistakes, learn from them. Learn to be a better person. Learn where your limits lie, because trust me, it will help you live a healthy and happy life, all right? So as unfortunate as it's going to be that we'll all make mistakes, be embarrassed or feel sad at some points, trust me, just learn from them. That's all I ask. Big love to you, all right? Take care of yourself. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.